Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today I'm making what may be a pretty controversial video. I'm not really totally sure, but given the information that came out today, the leaks, I guess, that came out today, I wanted to definitely come on here and talk about this. So I am going to do my best to try and not get this video, age restricted or even taken down. I really don't know the circumstances on whether or not coverage on this is even really allowed, but this, I think, is a genuinely important video to make. This is a genuinely important situation for people to talk about because this is an honest epidemic in American society. I don't think anyone would disagree with that statement. The fact of the matter is, on average in America, there is usually at least like one mass shooting a day that makes the news. That's horrible to think, right? That at least once a day, your odds are pretty good that if you turn on any news outlet, you might see some local elementary school that got shot up or some movie theater that got hit by some psychopath, right? Like, these kinds of things happen. And honestly, I've been saying this for years, but I am confident, and I know many other people in society are confident, that we as a country, as America, we're not actually doing anything to address this issue. And I'm not saying anything in favor of like, oh, we should ban guns or anything like that, because I think the issue is much more nuanced and complex than that. But the fact of the matter is, we all just continue to sit around and watch this shit happen pretty much daily. And we all just stick our heads in the sand as to why this shit is happening. I mean, the fact of the matter is, we have a mental health crisis in this country that is way deeper, way more permeated, and way more impactful than really anybody thinks. I go to group once a week, right? And like 2 or 3 weeks ago in group, we heard a statistic that like honestly blew my fucking mind. In the United States, 49 apparently percent of students that were surveyed in this study had at least one mental health condition that they struggled with, whether it be ADHD, OCD, depression, bipolar, anxiety, borderline personality, whatever it may be, right? Almost half of all high school US students have mental illnesses. That is a horrific thing to think. Like, 1 in 2 kids in the country are struggling with some sort of mental health disorder. It's fucking insane. It's horrible to think. But anyway, the Nashville shooter, I'm sure many of you probably know about this situation already. This is something that happened months ago, but there was a shooting in Nashville a while ago at this point where a trans shooter basically wrote a manifesto that wasn't released for a while. They go into like this church. They start killing a bunch of like kids in this church school or whatever, right? It's been probably one of the big news stories in terms of shootings in the country in recent memory. And like I said, for a long time, this manifesto that the shooter had written was not released to the public. Like, they had it, they knew about it, whatever, right? But for whatever reason it may be, and trust me, we'll get into that in this video, they did not want that going out to the public, which is actually interesting, right? Because like I said, this is a common occurrence in America, unfortunately. And this is not the first time that somebody like this has went and shot someplace up and written a manifesto about why they did it. So it's kind of interesting to think that we have manifestos from other shooters, bombers, whatever it may be, right? But suddenly, this manifesto was the one that couldn't be put out in the news. It was the one that suddenly nobody wants to talk about this one, right? Why would anyone want to discuss why this insane person went into a school and shot a bunch of kids? Why would anybody want to know why they did that, That would just be far-fetched to even think that that would be something we should look into, right? Well, the leaks came out today, unfortunately, realistically, about this manifesto, right? And we got a look at some of the pages from this leak that were in the manifesto, and I think it's pretty safe to assume why this manifesto suddenly did not hit the airwaves after this whole thing happened. So it turns out that the Nashville shooter, who I will not name by name because I personally do not believe in giving these people the attention and the heroism and the media attention that they want from doing these fucking shootings, right? So the leaks from these pages they're pretty fucked up. I mean, honestly, I really don't know what of these I can actually show on YouTube. I know that this video will also be on Rumble and other platforms as well, but obviously my main audience is on YouTube, and so I'm not totally sure what I can actually show you because, I mean, these are horrific. This is just terrible. I mean, this is somebody who is getting prepared to go kill a bunch of children, writing down in a notebook, like, their plans, their thoughts, everything going into this whole thing. And even at the top of the top of the list or whatever, there's a big drawing that says death day and everything, has the date scribbled on it, drawings of like a handgun, and it's fucking absurd. But I'm gonna go ahead and take a couple phrases out of this whole manifesto here to just give you kind of an idea as to what this shooter was thinking before they went into that school. To quote it here, there were several times I could have been caught, especially in summer of 2021. Can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm ready. I hope my victims aren't. I hope I have a high death count, ready to die. And then in the next few pages, we start to understand who in particular was targeted during this shooting. And this is when, honestly, we really figure out why this never actually went mainstream and why it never got released. The shooter writes, "Kill those kids," 3 exclamation points, "those crackers going to private fancy schools with those fancy khakis and sport backpacks, with their mommy and daddy's Mustangs and convertibles. Fuck you little shits. I wish to shoot your," I believe that says weak ass, "dicks with your mop yellow hair. Want to kill all of you little crackers. Bunch of little F slurs with your white privileges. Fuck you F slurs." So I think within that, you can kind of understand who was kind of targeted in this entire thing. I do want to point out the shooter was white, but it's pretty obvious what this is. I mean, you hear this, you're seeing these fucking pictures of this and everything, right? Well, you unfortunately can't really see the pictures. If you do want to see them, they're on my Twitter page. You can find that in the link down below. I have retweeted the uncensored pictures and talked about them. But in this manifesto, you can very clearly see who is being targeted. I mean, it's affluent, white, primarily Christian kids, right? And the reason they're being targeted is because their families are rich, apparently because they're also white, and because they, I guess, are religious. That's why this church in particular was also targeted. There's definitely a religious element to this whole thing. So this is very clearly, it's a terrorist attack. Let's just call it for what it is. I mean, it fits the fucking description very well. The whole definition of terrorism that's widely used is the use of intentional violence and fear to achieve a political or ideological gain. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that a trans shooter who is targeting primarily rich white Christian children to kill is doing that for a political or ideological aim. Whether or not Audrey viewed them as being legitimate targets because they were wealthy, because they were white, because of a mixture of it all, who really, does it honestly matter? I mean, it's very clear that people were broadly targeted based on their socioeconomic status and their racial status. I mean, in any circumstances, that should be considered a hate crime, no matter against who it is, who's perpetuating it. If that is the ultimate motive of the attack, that is a fucking hate crime. And that's exactly what this was. It was a hate crime motivated terrorist attack. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. But of course, here in America, right, we don't actually describe these things as what they really were. Unless, of course, a Muslim dude who's claiming allegiance to ISIS goes into a gay bar and kills 55 people. Then it's a terrorist attack. Then, everything needs to hit the media about why this happened and whatnot. But, in this instance, fuck it. We can't cover that. We can't talk about that. We can't release the manifesto and talk about that. And I'm not saying that to be like, oh, that shouldn't have been considered a terror attack in Florida when that happened, because obviously it was. But that definition of terrorism needs to fit across the board. Like, we need to just ultimately, in this country, call this shit out for what it is. This is a mentally disturbed person who went into this school with political or ideological mind to kill children. That is a fucking terrorist. And they wrote a manifesto explaining why they committed the terrorist attack, but of course that got hidden from everybody because it doesn't fit the grander narrative of what's going on, right? Because in America, everybody at this point, we're all divided, We're divided among our, once again, socioeconomic lines, our racial lines, our religious lines, our sexual lines, our gender lines, anything. It doesn't matter. There is no such thing as unity in America anymore. There is no such thing as Americans coming together for the grander, that doesn't exist anymore. Sure, it happened after 9/11 or whatever, but dude, for the last 20 fucking years, this country has been circling the toilet bowl of social status. The mainstream media has spent the last 15 plus years that I've been able to witness it firsthand in my life, dividing everybody among all of these lines. And then they only want to pick and choose specific circumstances and topics to actually talk about so that they can give you a really filtered and minute narrative of what's really going on. And so in America now, we have this whole like national conscience where it's like, oh, well, we've had shootings everywhere. It happens all the time. But what can we do about it? Oh, let's give our thoughts and prayers. Let's give our sympathy to the victims. I'm really feeling for the third graders who got their fucking heads blown open with an AR-15. I really feel bad for those kids. Thankfully, everybody has their thoughts and prayers ready for them at the drop of a hat. But is our government funding and subsidizing mental health services and actually trying to, broadly address the mental health epidemic that we have in this country? No, we're not gonna do that. Fuck it, let's shut down all the insane asylums and just let all the psychopaths walk the streets. And then on top of that, when they commit crimes, let's arrest them and put them through the prison system and make them even less likely to acclimate back into society. And then dump them back on the streets again, even more violent and fucked up than they were the first time around. And it's just incredible, and it doesn't really particularly apply to this situation is why I'm saying it, but it's incredible how often these shootings happen and whatnot, and the FBI will come out like the day after whatever and be like, well, the shooter was on our radar. We did have prior knowledge and information that the shooter, was they always go on that fucking tangent where they act like, oh, we almost had him, guys. Your tax dollars almost stopped this one. Nobody gives a fuck about this shit. Everyone can sit around and pretend that they do all they want. Biden can get on TV and fucking cry or whatever. That's what they do every time this shit happens. Once again, the thoughts and prayers will go to the victims. But does it matter that terror attacks are happening across our country all the time? Does it matter that at any given moment you can walk into Walmart and some fucking white nationalist can come through the front door with a gun and kill everybody? Does it matter to anybody that you can walk into a nightclub in Florida and some ISIS-driven militant can walk in and murder 60 people? No, that doesn't matter in American society because, but we got more important things to worry about, guys. We gotta do things like fund every fucking war around the planet or, subsidize gender studies in Middle Eastern countries and shit like that, Fuck actually addressing these problems here and stopping the terror attacks here and actually addressing the mental health crises here and stopping the mentally ill fucking lunatics from legally acquiring firearms that they shouldn't have been able to legally purchase because they're fucking psychopaths, and anyone with a fucking brain around them should have been able to tell that this was a psychopath. Like, yeah, I'm obviously worked up about the issue, and I'm kind of flying, a million miles a minute about it, but like, this is the shit that I've been saying for years. And this is yet another example of American society pretending that the issue is just not the issue that it really is. We live in a hyper-militant society where everybody views every other fucking person who is not just like them as a potential enemy. The mainstream media, the federal government, the elites of society, they all perpetuate this because in reality, it's the easiest way to control everybody. Just like if everybody now looks at all trans people, like the shooter here in this situation, that benefits the government, that benefits these other people because your attention is not on them fucking everything up. You're not paying attention to the fact that they're all pedophile lunatics controlling the fucking planet here. You don't have to worry about that because you're worried about the fact that, the innocent 16-year-old trans kid down the street might be just like this fucking shooter here. Or you might be more worried about the fact that the 14-year-old Muslim kid down the street, he might be like that guy in Florida, or he might be like the guys in 9/11. Or you might be worried that the white dude across the street might be like that guy who went to the church in fucking, Texas or whatever, or went into the store in Buffalo and killed the black people, right? That's what American society is based on now. It's based on what makes everybody different, what makes everybody, quote unquote unique. That's what it's supposed to be about. Is, oh, we're all individuals and we should celebrate us and, which, yeah, but there's nothing celebratory happening anymore. Everybody just fucking hates one another. And this is a perfect example. Like, children can't go to school anymore without being the targets of fucking attacks. Like, what kind of country do we live in where we just shrug that off like that's nothing? And then when you want to know why it's happening, when you want to be informed on the issue and you want to actually pay attention to it, right? They don't actually provide you with legitimate information because knowing this, knowing why this shooter did this, right? You realize that, wow, American society really is more frayed and fucked up than we really think. People really are more divided and against one another than ever before in our society. And the more you realize that, and the more you realize that, like, this, grand idea we have of America as some ultimate utopia or whatever isn't true, the more you start to question things, right? And the more you start to question things, and the more you start to be like, hey, why the fuck are we just ignoring actual terrorism happening in our country? Why is the mainstream media not informing us legitimately on the situations that are going on? Because if you start thinking like that, then shit could actually change, Then, maybe America actually will take mental health seriously, and maybe we will try to change the way society works so that, it's better for people and we don't have to worry about this shit. Why do that when we can just fuck off, you know what I mean? So it's just one of those things, man. Like, I'm sure this video is once again going to be somewhat controversial. You may not even agree with me on this, right? You may not think I don't really give a fuck if you agree or not. It's not my problem, but it's just one of those things where, like, is YouTube going to hit the video? I don't know. Like I said, I tried to play it as safe as I could. Once again, if you want to see the pictures of the manifesto, you want to see the information, it's on my Twitter. It's all over Twitter. You can find it pretty much anywhere. I'm sure now that it's actually, the fucking cat got out the bag or whatever, right? Now the mainstream media will probably try and jump on board acting like, they fucking broke the news or something and they're investigating this whole thing. I don't know, man, but you can find that information very easily. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel. Follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below. Thank you to my Watch Optimus subscribers. Your support helps the channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus talking about the Nashville Manifesto and signing out.